How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, I'm joined by Ross Barnett, who is the co-founder of TwoFlyGuys Media. Ross, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I think you say co-founder. Who's the other founder?
I am the other co-founder of TwoFlyGuys. You know,
looking at him, the
TwoFlyGuys. Tell me a little bit about TwoFly. What is TwoFly to you?
I don't know. It's just two friends who started a media company and trying to answer the need for video in the world.
All right. I like that. You know, TwoFlyGuys started really, I guess, in the depths of the boiling shrimp, if we want to bring it back.
The old shrimp days.
Yeah. So Ross was working there. And then I'll tell you my version of the story. And you tell me.
Give me your version, and I'll give you my version, because I think they're a little different. But
okay,
it's fine. Just go.
So from what I remember, Ross was working at the Boiling Shrimp. He was hosting at the time, kind of like, you know, running a restaurant as best as he can. In fact, I remember a few times Ross told me that people would come up to him and be like, "Hey,
this is true.
Do you own the place?" What was it about it that made people feel that way?
It's because I acted like I owned the place. Nothing else set me apart except for the fact that I acted like I knew everything about the restaurant.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's huge. You know, that I guess that confidence in yourself, I think, has always been there, and it's always kind of like shown through. And I saw that very early on. Ross came to me and said, "Hey, like, I have an interest in business." And I was like, okay, well, you know, what does that really look like? And we started talking, and he said, like, you know, video is something that is definitely interesting to me. At that point, you had made a few music videos or something like that, right?
I think at that point in my career, I owned a GoPro, and I was very interested in making videos, like travel videos and little things with just the GoPro. But I also remember a time in my life where I didn't want a real camera, because I was like, oh, like a real camera would set me like I can just do everything with a GoPro. Like, why do I need a real camera? And I think at the point where we had this conversation, I was still just working with the GoPro. I might have just gotten my first like Canon T something I, but yeah, I was just rocking the GoPro and working with some videos there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you came to me and you said, "Hey, look, like, this is something I want to do." I was like, "All right, well, I understand how important video was." Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Okay, Ross, like, how about you make some stuff for the restaurant?" And we started. Our first one was kind of like this.
Them sweet potato fries.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting about it. Like, that first video, if you go look back at it, honestly,
sucked.
I didn't want to say it myself. Like, I'll let you say it. It was not the best, right? And I think, like, actionable, like, for me, like, that action to say, okay, let's just put this out there, see how we can improve on it, is very important in the way that I conduct myself in business, right? I'll go ahead and get a product out there. I'll see, you know, what I can do to iterate, and then slowly change it over time so that it can kind of like evolve into the final form.
Yeah.
But that second video was, do you remember what it was?
That was the grilled salmon.
Oh man, that honestly put it on the map, you know? And I thought that everything like was locked in. I had people coming up to me saying, "Oh man, that video looks so good. Like, you know, what are you guys doing for that?" And I was like, "All right, well, I think there's definitely something here.
We're getting somewhere." Nice. My yeah, and that's pretty much the birth of TwoFly right there.
Okay, yeah.
My version is am I ready to go for my version?
Go ahead.
So my version is pretty similar. I was working at the old Boiling Shrimp as a host, and I don't know, like I had kind of a passion for making video, but hadn't really done anything professionally with it in the past. And I remember a conversation with you one day that was basically like, "Hey, like, I'm kind of interested in doing video." And Adam's like, "Oh, do video for the restaurant." And I'm like, "All right, cool, I'll do that." And I think we worked out some sort of price deal. And then it was just about every week where we filmed one video. We kind of sat down and was like, okay, here's what's wrong with it. Here's what's good with it. Here's where we can make it better. And then took that home, came back the next week, made another video, all while I was still working at the restaurant. So I was just basically there every day. And then, they just kept getting better and better and better and better. And I think a lot of that had to do with the collab process. So it was me showing up and filming and saying, okay, like, what do we want to film? What do we want to showcase about the restaurant this week? And then you coming at that with like, let's go this route, or let's go this route, or let's go this route, and constantly collabing together just made for a much better product in the end.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember how the name came along?
I'll give you one guess who came up with the name TwoFlyGuys Media. That would have been AdamTsang himself.
No, that's not me. Was that me?
Totally had to have been.
Why?
You.
Why was that me?
All right.
What do you remember about that?
I don't remember anything about the name. I just know it's ridiculous and kind of out there for a business name. And so there's only one person in my head who could have come up with it.
100% that was you.
No.
All right. Let me explain. Let me explain the reasoning why.
Give me the reasoning. All right.
So the name came from us, like. We were into drones for a period of time,
Very
right?
into drones.
We were like, oh, like, we should kind of like create
a drone was my first real camera.
Okay, that's right.
Actually, that's a good part of the story there. So I had a GoPro, then I bought a drone. I started making just drone videos. Then I got a real camera.
So that period of time while you were just making drones, you said, hey, what if like we created a Instagram account? And then that we started coming with names, because like, I was still at the restaurant every single day, and I would come up to the front and be like, oh, like what do we call it? And we came up with like 3 or 4 names, and Two Fly Guys was actually one of them.
Interesting.
That is from what I remember. Because what was the name of the account that you had?
So the account that I had that was just drone only videos was called Statesboro Skies.
That's right.
We lived in Statesboro. Statesboro has some cool sunsets every now and then. It was just Statesboro Skies, and I'd go through and just make drone videos all around town.
That's right.
And I guess I don't really remember
You don't remember the Two Fly?
How Two Fly started.
110%. That was definitely you.
Now the brand is embedded into my blood. Like I don't know anything else besides Two Fly.
All right, so let's ask you something else. A lot of people want to make media production their full-time gig. There's a lot of people that ask you all the time.
It's big on Instagram right now. Like,
sure.
Hey, make this your full-time. Like, it looks fun. I don't blame them.
It is fun.
True.
I mean, the creativity that we kind of like put into our products and the way that we approach business is definitely, it has its angle. But let me ask you this. So, if you had any tips for, entrepreneurs out there that are getting ready to maybe go into the media production game, what would it be? Well, how have you been able to find success?
That's a big question. So let's start off with, just like what we were talking about earlier with the boiling shrimp days. I don't know. I was doing weekly videos or every other week, and they were a very, 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 like, I wouldn't even touch a project for what I was getting paid then. But then I was excited, I was ready. So I think the first bit of advice is get every project you can. I'm not a big advocate for ever working for free, but like if it's a $50 gig, if it's a $40 gig, like get those projects and get started to build. Portfolio is an interesting word because some people overuse that term, but get started, get something that you can actually start working towards and like get a feel for things and just start. That's the biggest step. Step number 2, I would say, is start creating personally. That's a big one I see nowadays. Is so many people will be like, hey, like how do I get started on how do I get started filming videos for companies, or how do I get started filming videos for anything? And I'll look at their Instagram while they're messaging me, and they haven't put out a single bit of personal content ever. And so that is one of the biggest things for me, is create personal content. And a lot of the stuff you'll see on my Instagram literally filmed on my iPhone, because I whip out my phone really quick, film something, throw it into Final Cut or Premiere, edit it, and then create something just for Instagram. Because obviously, like, I wouldn't bring my iPhone to a photo, like to a shoot today, like professionally, but for something just for the internet or Instagram, it gets your creative juices flowing, it gets you started, but it also lets other people know that you enjoy doing video.
That's right.
And that's one of the biggest things to overcome, is nowadays, like, you can basically change your bio online and you can be anything you want. But how are you going to let people know that it's actually a passion of yours? So I would say start anywhere, pick up any jobs you can, and actually create personally, because chances are you already know 10 people who want to hire you who just don't know that you do that yet.
That's right. And I think that, you hit on something that's really important in there. And it's, what's extremely valuable about the video process is not so much like the gear that you have. I think, so many times people just dive again. It's like, oh, well, I need this camera. If I have this camera, then everything is going to be right. If I have that light, everything's going to be right, which is nice. I mean, those things allow you to do those things. But at the core of it, video is really about telling the story, right?
Very
and
true.
regardless of if it's a wedding video or if it's a business video, you are telling some sort of story that needs to be, communicated to the people that are watching.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, like, you highlighting that, I think is a major thing.
Yeah, like over the years, I have collected probably way too much gear. And that's the fun. Like, it's a fun part to buy a new camera or buy a new light or buy a new audio setup. But in the end, like, if you can't create something off of my first camera, like, I still own all of the first cameras I ever had, and I still use them every weekend because they're still good cameras. And if I couldn't create something with those cameras, I'm not going to be able to create something with a $10,000 setup or something bigger. So starting with what you have, like, kind of goes into what I just said earlier about the iPhone. Like, if I can't make a decent video with my iPhone, then I'm not going to be able to make a decent video with the cinema camera. Because the storyline matters so much. The overall image quality, 90% of people aren't going to be able to pick out the little things. And 90% of your jobs right now for social media marketing aren't looking at the highest quality cinema gear available. So if you can't make something with $1,000 camera, you're not going to be able to make something with a $10,000 camera. It's easy to say now that I have gear, but it's so important not to stress about every little piece of gear that you have. Get things that you need for the job. If you can't afford them, rent them, and then continue on with the job.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's move on to the next topic. So, TwoFly, after kind of like that first transitional period, we kind of like started moving into more and more projects. And, we started with these concept videos, and we would, I think our strategy for businesses out there has always been to create some sort of concept that we can apply time and time again, right? And so a good example of this is, like, initially for the Boiling Shrimp, we had these, we called them insider food videos.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the brand itself, right?
I haven't seen a lot of them recently, but back in like 2017-ish, Insider was this company, I guess they're still a company, but they were making these videos about different restaurants, and they were about 30 seconds long. They had little descriptions of like, oh, this is why you should check out this food truck. This is why you should check out this place. And that's kind of why we call them Insider style, because it is a very phenomenal social media style of video that we were able to take videos from the Boiling Shrimp and videos from other restaurants and implement them right here locally.
Exactly. And so, like, what we did there was, like, we said, I said I wanted everything to match. The font, the colors that they use.
Right down to the colors of the font.
Exactly. Because, like, for me, these companies have spent so much money on, like, creating this concept, and there's something in there that works, right? And so for me, being able to see that and, I guess, mimic it for the purposes of driving traffic, I think was one of the reasons why we saw so much success from that. But eventually what that turns into is us creating our own concepts. Yeah. So for you, like, with all the concepts that we've done so far, which have been, I guess, your favorite?
Obviously, I mean, I don't like to pick favorites.
Okay.
Because if I pick favorites, that means I didn't like a certain brands that I have done.
Sure.
So I can't pick favorites. But I mean, just that style, like you were just talking about, of like seeing a different company's style or way of doing things, seeing a couple different versions of that, and then honing that down and creating your own, like, that is so important. So with those insider style videos, granted, like, yeah, we had the fonts and the colors, but, like, it wasn't down to an exact T. We were able to take what they were doing and make it our own. And so that was the cool thing about it, is in the end, like it started out like as, hey, we really like this style, let's try to mimic it. And in the end, it worked into, okay, this is our own developed style. But yeah, that's I don't know. Like as far as a favorite, I like all of our videos. What are you talking about?
Nice. Okay. Well, we'll let you just go on that one. For me, I think that as we move forward, we're constantly creating like value within the brand. Brands themselves have those stories to tell, and when we sit down with clients, we kind of figure out what their brand is all about, like who they are.
Absolutely.
And then from that we reverse engineer and look at, okay, well, how can we put out videos that also align itself with that story? Because if it's not aligned, if you have like something that's completely random, then sometimes it works.
Yeah.
For example, like the rap video, like that's something that
The old
no
rap
restaurant has any business doing, but it also brings like a freshness to it, right?
Yeah.
Which is very in line with what So Yummy is all about. But for me, I think that what is your approach in terms of how to advertise for businesses?
I mean, the biggest approach is seeing, obviously, like looking at their, because I mean, social media is not everything, but it's a big part of advertising today. So looking at their social media and seeing what their current followers like, what their current followers enjoy to see, and then taking whatever their current followers enjoy to see and amplifying that like crazy. So if it's a very like hometown business where they love to see employees' faces on social media, and like sometimes you'll see this where they're like, oh, we have this product for sale, like 1 like, 0 likes, like no interaction. Oh, hey, employee of the month, Greg here, has been with our company for 30 years, 9 million likes, 100 comments about how much they love Greg. Then you get an understanding of like, oh, relatability with specific employees is like very beneficial to this company. So then you can create that in a video and have all of their like big names in that company. And it's just little things like that of looking and actually understanding what their clients enjoy and what their clients, because the more your clients will interact with like with a post or with a product, then the better it is to sell.
And I see this across the industry often, where the videos that are being produced are great looking shots, right? They look really nice. They look super clean. Like, the quality is there because the equipment's good, but it just lacks in any sort of like, I guess, movement of people, right? I see it and it's like, okay, like I don't understand why I'm looking at this. Tell me why, right?
Yeah.
Let's move it to something else. So, one thing that I think that we also execute extremely well on is being able to identify themes that are happening in social media and then capitalize on those themes for the purposes of advertising. Can you give me an example of how we've been able to do that?
Yeah, that's the fun part, when you see things going on and then are able to implement them and continue on with them. A good majority of that has come just from videos out of this restaurant, so out of So Yummy. Boy, I don't even. There's been too many. I don't know. What's a good example of one?
I would say, so the mannequin challenge over at Bone and Shrimp.
Yeah.
We also did a video. This was way back when. This is actually before your time.
Probably.
The Drake Hotline Bling.
Way back then, yeah.
Yeah, and so like those videos to me obviously have captured an entire nation's attention, and if you're able to play off of that, it will automatically kind of like boost you as well, right? And so being able to see the opportunity, because when you're looking at that content, it doesn't always like click and say, okay, how can I apply it to my business? But rather, like there is a way that you can think about it, or a way that to shoot it so that it does.
Yeah, giving your business a personality online is a big thing that not a lot of people talk about. So Yummy has a very playful online personality, very always like pushing the bounds, always being hilarious. So like same with Boiling Shrimp, and those draw attention because nobody really wants to interact with a seafood restaurant online, or nobody really want to interact with an Asian restaurant online. They want to like they want to interact with something funny or
That's
something,
right.
and then incorporate that with your business is the joy of things.
Yeah. All right. And so, one of the things that I want to continue talking about that we mentioned before was, this concept of entrepreneurship. I think everybody in this day and age, entrepreneurship has become very attractive to them because you get to make your own hours. You get to kind of like, call the shots. Do you think that everybody is an entrepreneur or has the ability to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, you changed it with that last part. Do I think everybody is an entrepreneur? Absolutely not.
Okay.
There's some people who do very well by understanding, like, going to work every day, like having a 9 to 5. They enjoy that, and that is awesome. Like, I get caught up, and you see this a lot sometimes, like on Twitter, where entrepreneurs think that they're the coolest thing in the world, and just like everybody should be like me. Like, why isn't everybody an entrepreneur? No, like, the world needs people who like to work for other people, and that is completely okay to work for other people. I hate the idea that entrepreneurs are just better. But so, I mean, going back to the question, do I think that everybody is an entrepreneur? Absolutely not. Do I think that everybody can be an entrepreneur if they put their mindset to it? Absolutely. It is 100% a mindset to get up and work for yourself every day. And 90% of that is just in the, I guess you can use the cool word of hustle here, but like 90% of that is in the hustle of like, are you going to be a good boss to yourself? Like, or are you going to slack off and not be a good boss to yourself? And so, yeah, I mean, yes and no on your question there.
Well, like the thing about it is, so let's dive into that. I know this just because like we've been working together so much, but let's talk a little bit about when you were introduced to entrepreneurship. So at a younger age, kind of like what was your journey with business?
This is a fun story. I was actually thinking about this last night. So back in middle school, one of my a lot with me kind of stems from my mom and dad. Both very, they see monetary value in everything. And like they are both, I mean, both have had several businesses like growing up. Growing up, they were always kind of owning their own businesses and things like that. So I guess an early example of this in middle school, I'll give you the short version here. My brother and I are both obsessed with paintball. All right. Paintball is a fun sport. Somehow we were able to save up Christmas and birthday money and put all of our money together, and we bought one of those air up paintball courses. So like the type that you see like on professional paintball shoots.
Okay.
So we grew up on a lot of land. Like we had a massive playground. So we had a full on like paintball course. There was probably like 20 something different bunkers that you aired up. And every Saturday or so we would have 20 something friends come out. And obviously paintball guns, they run on compressed air. And so people would bring their like air tanks, and then they would need a place to fill them up, because if you're playing paintball all day, you're going to go through 3 or 4 different air tanks. And so my dad basically bought this massive like 8-foot tall air tank, and we would take it down to, there was some store in Savannah that would fill them up. And it was like, I think $30 or $40 to fill up that big air tank. But in most people's minds, they'd be like, oh yeah, $30 to fill up the air tank, let the kids play all day, no big deal. But in mine and my brother's minds, kind of also transferred from my parents' minds, was, hey, that air tank costs $40 to fill up. Charge all your friends $5 for air every day, all day, which $5 for air was a great deal because there was $15 to just fill up like one tank at Walmart or something. So they would we'd invite 20 something friends over. All of them would pay $5. Me and my brother would wind up making $100 and something that day. And so we would be able to buy our like next paintballs and things like that from the side. But like that was just kind of a mindset that was kind of instilled in us in a young age.
So how old were you at this time?
This was 7th grade.
7th grade. And then was this idea, I guess, did this flow through, I guess, your parents? Did the parents kind of like guide you and say, hey, what you should do is such and such?
Very much so.
Gotcha.
And that is a lot of my like entrepreneurial side, is seeing things kind of like my parents would always see things through, I say like see things through a monetary value, which is important as an entrepreneur because you need to see money in everything. Like if you are not 100% budgeting the whole time and not seeing where your dollars are flying out the window, you're not going to make it as an entrepreneur. So that is still a very good entrepreneur mindset. I would say number 2, this one gets into my illegal days back in 8th grade.
Uh-oh.
Here
we go.
The middle school was they would do a yearbook CD. So at the end of every year, they would take all the pictures and do a little slideshow, and it would be on a CD. And I think they sold them for $10. So I don't know. This is before I thought about laws, I guess. But I bought one of those CDs, and then I took it home and I made 10 copies and I sold them for $5. And I got in trouble in middle school. And I remember my dad going, "Hey, don't do that." But that was pretty smart. And like,
so did the school reach out to him?
I think they probably called my parents and was like, "Yo, your son's selling bootleg CDs."
Nice.
And then he was probably like, "That's my boy." But I very much like remember my dad like not being mad, but like having to be like, "Hey, like, don't do that." But I mean, good work, but like, no,
Nice.
like you still stole something, but like, no. So that was the middle school entrepreneur days that I can remember. In high school, and anybody who knows me will probably know exactly what I'm talking about here, started the old iPhone repair days.
Ross on the reel.
That was the business name for anybody who doesn't know.
I love that.
So sophomore year of high school, I'm every bit of 15 years old at the time. The iPhone 4 is just coming to Verizon, and everybody in our area had Verizon, and everybody in our area was getting iPhones. So I was one of the first kids to have an iPhone, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm so cool. Like, I got an iPhone, whoop-de-doo. Everybody else started getting iPhones, so then I wasn't cool anymore. And I found something online one day where you could change the color of the front glass and the back glass. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. Like, I'm going to buy a blue one, because nobody had blue iPhone. Nowadays, they make them in all kinds of colors. But back then, they had white and black. And that was it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get a blue one. So I ordered this kit online. I don't even know. I ordered it online. It came in. And I spent like 7 hours one day taking apart this entire brand new iPhone, all the way, like millions of screws everywhere, and putting the whole thing back together. And I had a blue iPhone that worked. And after that, I was like, I have just unlocked the secret gift of iPhone repair. And this was back in the day of the iPhone 4, which, if anybody knows anything about iPhone repair, like, this was the hardest iPhone to repair, because you had to take the back off, you had to take everything out of it, then you had to take the screen off and put a new screen on. So I started basically, like, I would go around school and I had this blue iPhone, and everybody was like, yo, like, that's not a case. Like, that's a actual blue iPhone. And it was a great marketing tool, because then I could say, oh yeah, if you ever break yours, like, I can fix it. And if you want to pay a little more money, I can get you a cool color too. And so that started the days. I was 15, because I can remember not having a driver's license yet. And kids would give me their phones at school with money, and my parents would pick me up from school. I would take their phone home for the day, fix it that afternoon, and bring it back to them the next day at school. And that started a whirlwind of almost a business that I couldn't get out of. Mm-hmm. So that lasted me and was a great source of income all through high school.
Into college.
And for any of those who don't know, I was in college a long time. So I, through at least 5 years of college, where I was basically like, didn't have a real job at some times, was just fixing iPhones. At one point, I was fixing probably 5 a week. Yeah. And with the newer phones, like the 6s and up, I guess like the 5, I guess was there a 5? Yeah, there was a 5. I don't know. Anyways, with the 5s and 6s, they kept getting more and more like easy to replace, but also more expensive to replace. And so at a time, I was making probably $80 to $100 a phone, fixing 5 a week as a full-time college student. And it was a phenomenal source of income. And yeah, that was probably my biggest entrepreneur side up until TwoFly came along.
Yeah, so like I remember speaking with you about your iPhone repair business at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And you were asking about like, okay, well, how do I track inventory? How do I identify like how much this business is making? And I think that's one of the things that
I had no idea.
I know.
I didn't track a thing. I ordered parts. People came to my door. I fixed them. I got paid in cash. And I just that was it. Like, I didn't track anything. I didn't write down anything. I didn't have anybody's number. Like, it was just a interaction. And that was something that I think was a big failure in that business because I was never able to track exactly how much I was making per phone, exactly how much I was making per month, per week, per day. And so I never knew. And that's part of the reason why I had the job at the Boiling Shrimp in the beginning is because I needed some sort of minimum wage 20-hour-a-week job just to cover my baselines. And then everything iPhone was so much like more. But because the iPhone income was so up and down, I felt like I needed some sort of baseline income in my work. But yeah, I remember that conversation of like, hey, how do I track this? And you're like, oh boy.
Yeah. And so like, that was one of the things that actually like pulled me to you. Cause like, I mean, obviously like entrepreneur, like, to the bone. And when I see that, I'm like, well, there's definitely some talent here. Cause being able to pull something like that off. I mean, people talk about it all the time of like, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. But seeing someone being able to execute and create like revenue from like, like off iPhone repair, that was to me was really impressive. And so like that's why moving forward, when you said, okay, well, I have an interest in video, I was like, all right, well, I can trust this guy because he can figure out the problems, right? Entrepreneurship is a lot about how do you like fix problems that are existing and how do you make that happen?
Adapt and conquer.
That's right. That's
my motto right there is, you're going to have problems come up. You have to adapt to those problems and you have to figure it out and you have to keep moving on. And that was eventually I was able to get out of the iPhone business. And how? Because I had a policy where if I ever broke your phone, I would fix it or I would just pay to replace it. And the newer phones kept getting more and more complicated and I kept getting less and less interested in the business. And I think I broke 2 in a row and spent probably like $2,000 at Verizon. And I was like, all right, I'm done. Like I swiped that card and I said, all right, I'm out, like no more clients. And it was a perfect way to get out of the iPhone business and flow perfectly right into video. And so I'm thankful I was able to finally get out of it because it's addicting. Like when you have something that's making money and you don't want to do it anymore, you either lose passion and start having a worse product, or you finally just have to quit cold turkey. And so that's what I had to do with the iPhone.
And you're talking about that transition. I think that a lot of people go through that transition, right? Where this is where my income is coming in from right now, and then stepping into something new that could potentially do well or could not. Because at that point, videography was like, had that been like rolling for a period of time?
I think I transitioned decently well from like quitting iPhones into going into video. But at the same time, I was working that minimum wage restaurant job that covered all my baselines. I mean, I was in college full time. My expenses were really low. That minimum wage job making $700 or so a month covered all of my rent, utilities, everything. And so I was able to utilize these businesses as just making additional money. But like that transition period is huge for a lot of people. Like, and it was the same for me, like leaving college and going into TwoFly full time was, hey, like, am I going to be able to like continue this on? Like how much further down the road do I still have money? And that's like a big hindrance with a lot of people trying to go full time into video or trying to go full time into photo or trying to just go full time into any entrepreneur, like any entrepreneurship is that transition of like, ooh, like, is this going to work? And that's one of the biggest steps to overcome. And that's where budgeting helps.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for kind of like sharing that story. One of the questions that I have for you, kind of like moving into our next segment, is talking about like business partnerships. Obviously, we are partners in TwoFlyGuys, and for me, I think that it's been, again, one of the best moves that I've ever made professionally, just because of all the value that's been given to me from the video side, and also like personally as well. I mean, we're great friends. Oftentimes people say, don't go into business with friends, right? What would you kind of like, would you say that's, how do you feel about that?
If I agree, I'm going against everything TwoFly is, but at the same time, I very much agree, like, don't go into business with friends because it can tear apart friendships pretty easily. I think the difference between us is, when we started business, like, we weren't best buds every single day, hanging out, calling each other every day. But this business has created like an awesome friendship at the same time. So I think with TwoFly, it was like, hey, it was more like business partner, business partner, business partner. Oh crap, this guy's my best friend. And so it's like, dang, now what do I do with
crap.
that? But like with some people, they're like, oh, like I've got my best friend George here and I want to start a business with him. I mean, it depends. If George has some good assets for your business, then it might be decent to go for. But at the same time, I don't like the business with friends idea because it can easily tear apart friendships. And I think friendships is something that is so much more valuable than business sometimes, that like you have to go into it with the right mindset of like, hey, like we are best buds. We're going to start this business. And which one do we value more? Do we value our friendship more, or do we value this business more? Because like when things go south or wrong, which one are we going to actually stick with? And a lot of people get messed up with going into business with friends because they value the business more than their friendship. And so they would rather see their friendship go than their business go, which I don't know. That's a tough decision.
Yeah. I mean, for me, at least on my end, I think that going into business with the right people is what is important.
Absolutely.
If it's your best friend, then that's fine, but it has to be right. And I need to define that. So I think, you know, with our friendship, one of the reasons why, you know, the partnership works is because we can be extremely critical of each other and it be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Like extremely critical. Like I'll send you a video and you'll be like, Adam,
this sucks.
What the crap is this? Like, why did you put this light here? Why did you do that? But like, I know that everything that's being said is to help me improve. And the same thing with you, right?
Yeah.
Like the videos that you send me, I will be extremely like critical and almost like try to rip it apart as much as I can.
Yeah.
But for the reason behind that is because we're trying to make each other better. And I think that's where it gets weird.
That you have to go into it of the mindset of, yo, this isn't personal. This is how you're going to make your product better. Like you send me videos all the time and I'm like, the lighting is wrong, or like this is wrong, or like let's fix this. Or if it's something that's unfixable, it's like, hey, this is how we can do better. And like I'll send you videos all the time and you're like, I'm not feeling that transition, or I'm not about this color. And like that is, especially in the video world, that is so incredibly important, is having almost a review system where somebody close can watch and critique, and then especially when you're growing and like growing as a videographer, because those are so important. And like that is why like this partnership works very well, is because there's two minds working on every project. And so if I have an idea and I'm thinking it's going to go this way, and you have the same idea but you're thinking it's going to go slightly in this direction, we can meet in the middle and make it stinking awesome. So yeah, like that's super important.
Yeah, I actually want to reference this bar behind us, because I think that, you know, right here at this bar, when this restaurant started, I would meet with Ross up here, and we called it the Genius Bar, because we're just being...
We met, I'm talking like every night from 11 p.m. to like 3 a.m. for probably 6 months, or probably longer.
I think around 6 months, and we were meeting for the purposes of, you know, strategizing, and there was some magic moments in there that, you know, we would take an idea and I would, you know, just throw it, because I'm the guy that's just always like throwing stuff at the wall, right? Literally, like just always like boom, 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 boom. But you're the one that's kind of like, you know, filtering those things out and saying, yes, this one makes sense. Oh, dude, Adam, like what are you thinking?
Adam throwing things at the wall constantly, and I'm like, okay, this would how it would look on camera, or this is how it would look in this situation. But yeah, like basically we met I would say every night for 6 months, probably.
That's right.
Where we were just strategizing, like talking about different future business goals, different ideas for this place, different ideas for the company as a whole. Just so many ideas.
And that's why this bar has always like held like really great memories for TwoFly, because it always reminds me that like it's the meeting of minds that makes things work, right? An idea is just an idea, but when you're able to take that into action and push it out into the world, that's when the true magic happens.
Absolutely.
And that's been super fun to watch. For you, what are your goals for the next phase of TwoFlyGuys?
The next goal for TwoFly is obviously growth. Like I want to take what we started here and make it more than make it more than just like, because I mean, right now we're a pretty small team. Like I have 2 part-time guys under me and you, and that's about it. And so I want to take this and grow it. I want to be able to train full-time videographers under me. Maybe in the next 5 years, have 5 full-time guys, and be still a small feel media company. I love the idea that everything is like sitting like right here. I don't want to grow like, oh, we got offices all over the nation, because like then you're losing touch of the creativity side and like the ideas. But I want to grow to maybe like 5, 10 full-time guys, like have just growth. I think that would be incredible. So we'll see where it goes. Obviously, if I look back 5 years ago right now, and like I don't know if I even believed that I could do this full time 5 years ago. I don't even know if like I saw myself doing this. I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else, but like I didn't know that it would be doing this every single day. But like, yeah, so I'm all about the future. I'm ready. Let's go.
That's right. I'm excited too. You know, TwoFly has so much potential. I think, you know, especially on my end, since, you know, there's so many different projects that I'm involved with. I mean, TwoFly is really that arm that gets the message that I'm trying to create with all the businesses into the public. But, you know, for me, even the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, I mean, this is being controlled within TwoFly, right? We're being able to see like, okay, well, you know, how can we make the shots better? I mean, this layout this is not me. This is like you kind of like putting some.
I mean, I adjusted a few things.
It's like, Adam, why is the light here? Like, why are you doing that? Why is this so high? Why is this so low?
Just making you a better person every day.
But that's that's the reason why it works. And I think that, you know, I'm so like grateful for kind of like the opportunity to be working with somebody that, you know, is driven to grow and all that. So, but with that said, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience?
For all the young viewers out there just trying to make it, I think what I said earlier is that's a big key thing. Like, don't be afraid to accept the cheaper jobs. Work with gear that you have. Don't obsess over camera gear, and partnerships are always nice.
That's right.
So yeah.
All right, man. Well, Ross, thank you so much for your time. Co-founder, TwoFlyGuys Media, delivering the best content to you, regardless if it's a wedding or a business video. Thank you so much.
Peace.